I'm in the middle of a TJ Watt film study, working from the standpoint of how he has really disrupted or tormented the Ravens offense. And the data and the numbers are staggering. I'm not going to put them in this video, to be honest with you. I will reveal them in that what is probably going to be a longer form film study of TJ Watt and how he's performed against the Ravens with some data and some stats. In the midst of that study, I stumbled upon the Morgan Moses film from 2020 when he played with Washington against, up in Pittsburgh in Week 12 of 2020. And I decided to take a look at it again for multiple reasons, one of which I'll mention in a couple of moments. What it's going to morph or branch into is probably two or three videos on Morgan Moses against specific pass rushers. So this first one will be against TJ Watt in Week 12 of 2020, as I mentioned, a game that Washington came back to win. The second one will be from the same season against Shaq Barrett in the wild card round, as Washington nearly upset Tampa Bay. Of course, Tampa Bay went on to win the Super Bowl that year. And he played quite well against Shaq Barrett off on that right side. And then the third one will be against Sam Hubbard, the Bengals lefty in Week 8 of the 2021 regular season. And he really quieted Sam Hubbard there as well, even though Hubbard did have, I think, 5 or 6 tackles. He did not have anywhere near the amount of quarterback sacks or pressures. And if you recall, in Week 7, the week before, when the Bengals came to Baltimore and really put it on the Ravens, Hubbard had 2.5 sacks and another 3 quarterback hits. And then 1 week later, Morgan Moses shut him down. So I'm working on the aforementioned video about TJ Watt, and it'll show his play against guys like Patrick McCarry, Orlando Brown, Tyree Phillips, and others. And an in-depth study at Moses, because let's be honest, we've got to figure out a way to beat the Steelers at least once, if not twice. And part of doing that is at least slowing down, if not totally quieting, TJ Watt, and which we just have not done at all since 2019. 2018, he was not nearly as effective in terms of pass rush against the Ravens and overall stats, but 19, 20, and 21, he's been lights out. 10 total sacks, I believe, in those 6 games. Maybe it's 10.5 sacks. Anyway, I want to take a look at Moses against other pass rushers, but this video today is just going to be him primarily against TJ Watt from the first half of that game. I will include some film from the second half in a later film study. And he looks pretty good. Now, he does occasionally get some penalties overall. Morgan Moses. But when he plays at this angle, now granted there is an offensive player here who's helping him, making TJ Watt line up wider. But in my opinion, Moses' length, his strength, and when he plays at that angle you just saw, when he plays at that 45 angle, when he's pass sets kind of deep, he forces TJ Watt to make decisions that he does not want to make. When he gets flatter, I don't think Morgan Moses is nearly as effective. But in any case, this was a game that Pittsburgh was in control of, had the lead, and then Washington scored 13 points in the final 9 minutes to stun them in Pittsburgh 23-17. Anyway, Watt he did have 1 sack on the day and 4 QB hits. So on the surface, that looks pretty productive for him. Maybe it was 3 QB hits. And Washington did have a lot of 3-step drop, so a lot of quick pass plays. But I think Morgan Moses at least gives the quarterback a chance, which we have not had against TJ Watt in recent years. Compared to how he does against the Ravens right tackles, it's really obscene what he's done to us. I thought Moses holds up well. He, as I mentioned before, he's more consistent and better playing at that deeper pass set, and you can see that Watt doesn't overpower him, even though you've got to account for the speed rush with Watt at all times. TJ Watt himself has said multiple times he likes to establish the speed rush early. He does give Morgan Moses trouble on that one time in this game, but I think Moses takes away some of the options that TJ Watt has, that bull rush there being one of them, because he's big enough and strong enough, he can just anchor down. When he takes now here he's not lined up against TJ Watt. TJ Watt is apex, so he takes this flatter pass drop and jumps. I think it's Stephen Tuitt, the guy who just retired. And from the end zone angle, you'll see what I mean by jumps. By the way, look at how ridiculous TJ Watt is. He's up here guarding a tight end man-to-man. Could the ball be thrown to the sideline and have him be open? Yeah, but he's capable of doing that, at least in the structure of the defense and maintaining a leverage side. Pretty unbelievable for outside linebacker. Anyway, watch Moses' angle. It's not back at this 45. He doesn't respect Stephen Tuitt as much. He certainly doesn't respect the threat of a speed rush as much. So he jumps him, and then takes him out. I did see Watt win with an inside hand swat later on. I don't know if I have that one in this video or not, to be honest with you. I've watched a lot of Morgan Moses film in the last probably 24, 36 hours. And TJ Watt played 67 snaps that day. And you know, he could have been sick, he could have been dealing with an injury or whatever, but he clearly did not dominate Morgan Moses. Apparently he had a forced fumble in this game somewhere. I have not seen it yet. Again, I'm only through the first half. But again, look at the angle that Morgan Moses plays at, and he's telling you where who he's assigned to, so the type of protection that you've got. He plays at this angle. His feet get rather narrow just a moment before that, but he's strong enough to do that to T.J. Watt, and he did it consistently in that game. T.J. Watt wins some snaps, of course, but Morgan Moses is going to make him work. And again, this film is from 18 months ago. I think Morgan Moses is 31 years old now. I will mention one thing that I noticed with the Kyle Fuller signing, and to a lesser extent with the Mike Davis signing. Neither of these guys misses a lot of time. They don't miss a lot of time. Morgan Moses hasn't missed a game, I think, in like 6 years. Kyle Fuller, I think, has missed one game in the last like 5 years. Now, Mike Davis, the running back the Ravens signed, who played with the Falcons last year, he's played, I think, 15 games, 12 games, 15 games, and then 17 games last year. There's one season where he missed 4 games, but otherwise, you're talking about 3 guys who don't miss a lot of time. So they have some durability. I think that makes sense in terms of what we experienced last year. So from that standpoint, credit to the Ravens front office for picking up guys that, at least historically, have not missed a lot of time. Again, I didn't think the speed rush really beat Morgan Moses. The bull rush didn't, as you kind of see right there, kind of like a pseudo bull rush. TJ Watt didn't land any spin moves on him. He didn't even attempt any. They ended up stemming him inside, to be honest with you, later in the game some, and doing an exchange with the D tackle. That one there, he kind of got the better of him. I think I gave you the end zone angle so you can see it. Was them stemming him inside? This is the end zone angle of that same play. So he does get up under him a little bit and then does a nice job with the outside arm. TJ Watt with the outside arm here, pulling down and then ripping over the top, or swimming over the top, excuse me, to get a pressure. But we're at least able to get the ball off. And I say we, I mean the quarterback. Look, is there and also, look, to be honest with you, and this, again, the person who I spoke to, not as high on Morgan Moses as me and other people, said, I don't know that he's going to even start. That's possible. I mean, Daniel Falele could start. Patrick McCarry could start. I mean, hell, Jawan James could start. But we've got film of a guy who did this against T.J. Watt during the season when I think Watt had 14.5 sacks, 15.5 sacks. So it's not like we don't have options there. That's the good thing. That should make us feel good as Ravens fans, that we at least have options. Ronnie Stanley, if he's healthy, we got Ronnie Stanley, we got McCarry, Daniel Falele, Morgan Moses, Jawan James, hopefully he's ready to go. Ravens have a lot of options in depth. Guys who have competed, and in the case of Morgan Moses, we have some guys that have taken on T.J. Watt and done quite well. Now, I expect this to be a move that he tries more, where he tries to get Morgan Moses' outside hand outside of him and then chop down with the inside arm. It doesn't happen to work here, because Morgan Moses, A, is so strong, and B, he's a little overextended, but he's not completely overextended, even though he's like only on one foot. Let me back it up, sorry. When that chop lands, you can see he's starting to be his posture starting to be broken a little bit because he's starting to lean forward, and he's only got one foot on the ground, but he's still able to reset and then push TJ Watt out, giving that little extra, split second or extra second for the quarterback to make a decision and throw the football. If Lamar Jackson cannot be harassed as much as he has been by TJ Watt in the past, I think the sky's the limit in terms of what he can do against the Steelers. I will have a video later this summer about him struggling against the Steelers in terms of the pass game. It's just a fact. The Steelers have caused us problems, and I think most of it starts with TJ Watt. I think one of the problems is us running so much read option at him. Is it a good concept because you get TJ Watt running directly at the quarterback? Yeah, it's a good concept. But at some point, if it's not working, and what I mean by that is like you're not just totally obliterating them with the running game. Look, the same move, TJ Watt trying a very similar move there with the inside hand chop down. and again doesn't work. I don't know about you. I don't want to see us run a shit ton of read option at TJ Watt, leave him unblocked. I'll be finishing that film study. You guys let me know what you think in the comments section of what you saw here today. Obviously, you can go back and watch it a second time. If you'd like for me to sometimes slow the video down, I can do that. It does require a little bit more editing. This was just kind of getting the film up on the database, or at least the first half of it. And once I get the film study completed on TJ Watt, hopefully you'll get a better sense of how he's compared going against Macari, Orlando Brown, Tyree Phillips. Obviously, we know he overwhelms him, to show how productive Morgan Moses actually was in this game. Let's not overstate it, though. He's not going to shut down TJ Watt. TJ Watt is going to make some plays. He's too talented. And what you didn't see in this video is some stuff that they started doing in the second half, whereby they started stemming him inside and then looping the D tackle around. And were they doing that because Morgan Moses had done a nice job in the first half? It's possible. That's entirely possible. I don't know that to be the case. Were they just doing that as a regular part of their pass rush? Of course. TJ Watt forced one fumble and got another sack in week 1 against Buffalo in 2021 on those exact same things where him and the D tackle are kind of exchanging rush lanes. TJ Watt's going inside the B gap and the D tackle's looping around. So the tackle and the guard have got to pass that off to each other. But I didn't see it in the first half that much. I didn't. In the second half, I saw it 3 or 4 times. Usually coaches try to adjust. In the NFL, they adjust before halftime, but you're definitely going to see some adjustments after halftime to things that aren't working for your team. I think it's entirely possible that that's the reason why they started to do those things. You guys let me know what you thought of this quick film study on Morgan Moses. I know we're talking about old film, and other people have covered it, more so. We're not going to get film of our own to use for a long time. So I'll be looking at TJ Watt and his performance against the Ravens, particularly in the last 3 years. And that'll be a longer form video. Hopefully you'll check it out, because it basically include, obviously some highlights of his, but it's going to include how we have tried to attack him unsuccessfully generally in the past. And the guys we have used against him, even Orlando Brown to some extent, having more trouble than Morgan Moses did in this film. You guys let me know what you think of the film study, what you think of Morgan Moses and the rest of the tackles that we've got as options to be starters in week 1.